This is the plaintiff, Jessica Lorsch. She says she gave the defendants a deposit for her wedding reception at a farm the defendants own. Then COVID hit. The defendants refused to allow her to have the wedding there and now won't return her deposit. She was forced to have her wedding at another nearby venue. The defendants owe her the $3,355.05 she paid, and she's suing for it. These are the defendants, Ross and Mary Ann. Ross says the plaintiff started harassing him when they told her the state mandate wasn't allowing weddings due to the pandemic. They weren't about to go against the state's mandate. They were happy to rehost the wedding at a future date. Their contract states no refunds. And well, here they are. They're accused of breaking a bride's heart.
All parties, please use your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket. The plaintiff says that she hired the defendant, gave her a deposit for her wedding reception, but because of COVID, the wedding was canceled and she can't get her deposit back. Now, the defendant says that the plaintiff demanded that they have her reception, but they refused to go against the state-mandated guidelines. It's the case of breaking a bride's heart.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome, ma'am.
All right, Ms. Lorsch, congratulations on your wedding.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Tell me what happened. You guys get engaged in 2018. The wedding was what day? June 20?
June 20 of 2020, yes.
Yeah, that was carefully picked out quite some time ago. And then what happens? COVID hits, and you're from Washington State?
Yes, we're both born and raised in Washington, but we live in California. So when we got engaged, we knew we wanted to have the wedding up in Washington to just be better convenient for our family and friends. So we got engaged April 13th, 2018, and about 4 months later, we toured 3 venues on the weekend of August the 19th, and their venue was one of them. So we toured the property with Mary Ann and sat down with her, looked at pictures of
okay, and you end up picking them. You decide that you love the place and that's where your wedding is going to be. And then March of 2019 hits.
Well,
and what
so
happens?
Between then and March, there was 2 checks that were cashed. One of them held the deposit, and that was actually cashed July 1st, 2019. And then the balance was cashed January 24th, 2020. So they had a total of $4,355.05. So yes, March, Corona hit, and just like it is now, it was really changing day by day. So I had a wedding planner that lived out in Leavenworth, and she was really doing everything because I live in California. So
well, explain something to me. What goes wrong between you and the defendants, though? At what point they tell you you were supposed to have a wedding that had how many people? That's what you were paying for. The wedding was supposed to have how many?
When we sat down in August, we talked about 150 to 200 people. And so that's what we were paying based off of.
When you talk to them, what do they tell you? Don't worry, we can still accommodate the state's guidelines. What is it they tell you?
My wedding planner says, I talked to Mary Ann and everything is fine. They said, quote, whatever amount of people you're comfortable with, we're comfortable with.
Okay, so then at what point do you find out that the story is going to change and that there's a problem and that you can't have a wedding? Get to the meat and potatoes of this. When do they tell you?
May 5th.
May 5th, who tells you what?
My wedding planner calls and says Mary Ann's changing her mind. So I called Mary Ann. Actually, I emailed her first that day, and I said, when can you talk? And I just picked up the phone, called her, and she answered, and I had a conversation with her. And that conversation, she basically said to me, yes, we're having second thoughts. I cannot guarantee that. A, can you postpone it? I said no. B, can you have 10 people there? And I said no. And then C, I just said, this is what we're going to do. Because I was already freaking out. I'm like, we're about 30 days out. I need to know now. So I already knew I had to look for a plan B. So I said, we'd like to gift you $1,000. You know, it's really unfortunate that this happened, and this isn't what we've been planning for 2 years. And then go ahead and take your time. It sounds like times are rough, but when you get a chance, go ahead and give me back the remainder of our money. And she said, that sounds fine. Let me just triple check that my husband doesn't want us to move forward, and I'll let you know in a few days. So that's how we got off the phone there. That was May the 5th. So then that day is when I tried to talk to my wedding planner. I said, what do we do? And she knew of another couple that lived on the other side of the canyon. They didn't do this as a business. She's like, I lived there. They have a backyard. I can they don't really have a contract, but I'll just send you what they have. And I just said, yes, let's do it. So this was much easier. It was just right down the street. 3 days later, I called Mary Ann because I didn't hear back. And she basically said that she spoke to her husband. They agreed they cannot do this and that she was going to, in fact, return my money.
Okay, can you jumpstart this? At the end of the day, who tells you we're not going to give you the money? Does he tell you or does she tell you?
So then she hangs up the phone with me, and her husband calls me about 5 minutes later, and he says, Mary Ann does not want to talk to me, and you had an illegal wedding, and since you went to a, quote, commercial vendor, you're not going to get your money back. And then he threatened me and said, if you guys take this to court, we're going to get you, your wedding planner, and all the vendors that you used in trouble, and you guys are all going to get fined $10,000 each by L&I. So I said, I'll see you in court.
Wow. Okay. Let's hear from you guys. Mr. Ross and Ms. Mary Ann, tell me what's going on.
So basically, we were understanding with our contract that it's a no refund contract. And when COVID hit, we were under the state mandate and guidelines, and they were a moving target. So we could not make any definitive statements through that period of time.
Right. So could you provide the wedding you sold to her, which is, and I know that it's not your fault, you're not responsible for COVID, but were you able to provide what she bought from you, which is a 100-person wedding?
We could have provided the wedding if they had been willing to book in the next year or later that year, or wait and see what phase.
Right, but that's not, with all due respect, that's not your decision, is it? It's their decision when they want to wed. It is a very personal decision. And what ends up happening is they pay you to have a big wedding that you didn't give them because you couldn't. So my question to you is, at some point, according to her, you guys reach an amicable solution where she says, we've spent a lot of time together. I'd like to gift you $1,000. Don't give me back my $4,000, whatever. Just give me back $3,206.05. And you, Ms. Mary Ann, say, yes, we'll do that. What happened to change that?
When COVID hit, the wedding planner and I had a lot of conversations about, like you said, what's going to happen, what are our options. And I had a lot of brides I was dealing with this with. I'm very sympathetic to the bride's cause. So when she called and we talked about her scenario, she didn't want to change her date, fine. She didn't want to do it in 2021, fine. All that I understood. However, what she told us was, I can't do any of those things. I'm going to have it. My backup plan is I'm going to have a wedding in my aunt's backyard with my immediate family because that's what we can do. Okay? If at any point in time she had said to me, we are going to look for another venue and have an illegal wedding, which it was according to the mandates, at another venue, I would have never agreed to give her money back.
But here's the thing, and I'm trying to understand your reasoning, you see, because she wants a wedding. She wants it that day. You won't give it to her, and someone else will. What was so evil about what she did? And by the way, did you guys ever tell them no more than 6 or 10 people?
No, what we told them is we were willing to do whatever we could do in that phase as mandated by the governor.
And they knew that.
Right, but then so she wouldn't. I know, but hold on. Why would you take it out on her? When at the end of the day, the bottom line, and I'm sorry that business is terrible. I'm sorry that this has happened to all of us. You're in the same boat as a lot of other people. Why should this young lady pay you $4,350 whatever dollars that she paid you when you look at her and tell her, I can only do a 10-person wedding? I know it's not your fault, but you know who else's fault it isn't? Hers. So when COVID closes us down, the question becomes, who's gonna eat the loss, right? Is it gonna be the tenant? Is it gonna be the landlord? Is it gonna be the person who paid for a service? Is it gonna be the person who can't perform a service? In your situation, you sold her a wedding on such and such a day, and through no fault of her own, you could not provide that wedding. What made you so mad? How did you find out where she did the wedding and all this stuff? What was it that made you so mad that all of a sudden you guys changed? Excuse me. What was it? Let me do my thing. What was it that made you so mad that you decided to change course on what you had said earlier?
With the understanding that the plaintiff's getting married at Aunt's backyard, and we agreed to that refund on that basis. We found out that the wedding was being held on the other side of the canyon from us with a competing vendor.
How did you find that out? Because somebody came to deliver something at your venue and you followed them.
Correct.
How did you find out where the wedding was taking place?
The guests that were lost called their friends who were at the wedding venue and told them how to get there. So we figured out, it's at
You
X,
hear
Y,
them.
Z
So
venue.
you drive over there and then you take the following video. Hold on. Okay, I've seen enough. So let me see if I've got this straight. Basically, you're mad that someone else was violating the law, so you're going to take it out on her. Let me explain something to you.
I would feel that
I don't
she
understand why
violated
you're
the
not
law.
suing for every penny. So tough, go report her, do whatever you want. But
I
how
didn't
does
think
that
I
mean
was
that
allowed to.
you're just mad that someone else was able to do the wedding or did the wedding and shouldn't have? You're mad you're following the rules and you're mad that someone else isn't. And so now, by golly, we're going to keep her money.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Will the defendants have to ante up the deposit for the bride's failed wedding? Let's find out.
You are specifically hired to do something. Thanks to the pandemic, you couldn't. That is not your fault. I understand that, but that doesn't mean you get to pretend that you gave her what you sold her. You couldn't give her what you sold her, and that is not on her. If you cannot complete the contract, somebody's going to eat this money. And the only reason you don't think it should be you is because you ran over there, trespassed on the other venue's property to take a video, and you're angry that she somehow finagled being able to have the paltry little God bless you wedding that she was able to have with what, 20, 30, I can't even see how many people are in the video. So how many people did you end up having? 60, 50, 40? What did you end up having?
52.
Yeah.
I didn't think I
Okay,
was allowed
so-
to sue for all of it because we had a verbal agreement where I gave them $1,000, but technically they have $4,355.05, and I sent you both the checks that show those total amounts. There was a deposit of $2,162, and that final check of $2,193.05.
You know what? You make an excellent point. You were going to gift them $1,000 and ask just for part of your money back. And you reach that little settlement, and then you don't honor the settlement. Why should you get the benefit of the settlement? You didn't honor it. You're absolutely correct, and I'm going to order them to pay the entire amount back to you because that is what she's entitled to. Too bad. You should have honored the settlement instead of getting mad at some other venue and then taking it out on the bride. Verdict for the plaintiff, $4,355.05. Congratulations.
So the plaintiff is finally going to get her money back. Let's talk to Ross and Marianne now, the defendants. I'd like to know how you feel about the judge's decision. Ross, let me ask you, what are you thinking?
Well, the decision is as we expected as far as contract world goes and legal guidelines. However, it's irresponsible on the part of the bride and groom and irresponsible on the part of the venue that hosted it when they knowingly knew that COVID mandates did not allow such an event to take place.
Well, look, you're like a spy. That's really funny. You went over there and spied and took the video. Anyway, the judge really totally disagrees with you. She's ruled against you. You got to give the money back. And that's the bottom line. Okay?
No, we went
That's it.
to our neighbors to see what they were.
That's it, guys. All right, let me talk to the plaintiff now. Ms. Lorsch, I assume you are feeling pretty elated right now. I would think so, right?
Yes, I feel great.
Good for you. How was the wedding? We haven't really heard about that. How'd it go?
It was beautiful. I sent a picture of my husband and I, and it was lovely. We had our closest friends and family there. We're blessed we were able to do it.
Well, that's good. Congratulations. I'm sure everybody watching is happy you're getting your money back. Good for you. Now, let's see how the judges feel about this. Let's join Judge Millian and her husband, Judge John, to see what they have to say in another session of After the Verdict. Here they are.
You had a situation in this case where there was a contract to provide a service and there was an impossibility of performance. Performance couldn't be affected because of the COVID-19 epidemic. So I guess in your mind, it really didn't matter that you say, hey, no refunds, because you can say no refunds, but then you have to be ready, willing, and able to deliver what you contracted for on that day, right?
Right. You know, the thing is, he can't perform through no fault of his own. If she had turned around and said, well, I had to go to a different place in a different city, it cost me $10,000, so I want you to pay the difference. Of course he would never have to pay the difference. You know, his impossibility of performance wasn't his fault. But you can't take $5,000 and keep it if you can't perform. Somebody's going to miss out. In every COVID situation, there's going to be a party that is hurting. If I lose my job and I can't pay my rent, I don't pay my rent. If I don't pay my rent for 6 months, my landlord has no money to pay their taxes or their insurance or their mortgage. So now it's passed off to the bank. Then the bank, you know, everybody feels for everybody else, but they don't want to. It's like musical chairs. Nobody wants to be the one to eat it, which I get it. You know?
Everyone's getting hurt. Some people maybe a little more than others, but it's got a cascading effect.
It sure does.
All the way down.
All the way down, and sometimes all the way up.
Sometimes up, exactly. Anyway, well, it turned out great for them. They got married, thank God.
I'd have postponed the wedding for another year. We've been invited to 2 weddings that have been postponed a whole other year. Because I would really want the wedding to not have any, but God bless them, they're so cute. You know, they bought the house, they're happy that they have their closest friends, and you know.
Absolutely, got to celebrate with
He's just angry that someone else violated the rules. He's not even angry at her, he's really angry at the venue.
Kind of seemed that way.
Yeah.
So Paula from Kansas wants to know, I rented a place in another state and now it has a higher COVID rate than in my home state. Do I still have to move if I sign the lease? Well, unless there is a law in your city or state that says you're excused, yes, you're stuck. It is unfortunate, and it is just one of the many, many difficulties and tragedies of COVID.